Okay, welcome back. On page 320, talking about clustering. You know, the failover cluster where one of them is passive, one of them is active. It just waits for the other to die. But yeah, do I have to pay for 2 servers? Yeah. Do I get to use 2 servers? No, I do not. So is that something that the disaster, the upper management understands and supports? That you have to buy 2 of things even though you're only using 1? Okay. And then load balancing, that's a kind of slightly different. Load balancing is typically used for things like web servers, where I have 3 copies of the web server running simultaneously, and when you hit, you just get picked one of the servers. And it's usually an appliance of some sort, a network appliance that looks to see how busy each one of the servers are. So if server 1 is really, really busy, when you hit, it's going to go to server 2. Okay. Folder redirection. So instead of having documents stored on my machine, I have them redirected to a server. Now this is good. Now I'm not talking about replication here, because we're talking about it not even stored on your machine at all. It's being stored on the server. Now the reason why you might want to do that is typically in a corporate environment, they do not back up the hard drives of the individual machines. So if you have 100 machines, we don't do backups for them. But if you're a high roller and you have a lot of stuff that you need to have and you got to make sure it gets backed up, we do folder redirection. So we just point you to a private spot on the server and no one else gets to see it. In fact, you would never know that your stuff was not being stored local. Here's the cool thing. So I set the boss up for folder replication, and then he says, my machine's getting kind of old. I said, great, I got a new one. I'll swap you out. So I just take his machine out, pop a new machine in, and he goes, hey, all my files are here. And I go, yeah, because they're not on this machine. Okay, cool stuff. All right, let's continue. There's some crazy use cases. Let's say, for example, that you had a machine in the lobby, and maybe some thief came in and went, aha, I'm going to steal that machine, grab it, tuck it under their arm, and run out the door. Well, nothing is stored on there. It's just an operating system. There's no files. The files are located on the server somewhere, and he didn't steal the files. Isn't that pretty cool? All right, so I would use that if a user moves around a lot. If you just sit at one cube and one computer your entire corporate life, you probably don't need folder redirection. But if you're one of those people who move from desk to desk to desk to desk around the organization, you want to carry your folders with you, right? So folder redirection makes sense in those cases. Okay, good. And one more time, does the IT department back up your hardware? You would probably have to ask, but I'm pretty much sure the answer is no. They do not back up individual machines. They go, oh yeah, that's your responsibility, and kind of wave their hand at it. I mean, not that they provide you any type of backup software or any backup media. They just say, yeah, you get to do it yourself. So backup and restore, page 321. There's basically 3 types of backups. This sounds like good test question stuff, doesn't it? A full backup backups everything, the entire thing. A differential backs up only those things that have changed since the last time you did a full backup. Kind of makes sense? And an incremental copies the things from the last type of any backup. So let me show you a graphic of how that works. So let's assume, I don't know what this unit of measure is. Unit of measure could be time, could be tapes, whatever. So here's the thing. If on Sunday I did a full backup every day, then this is how much tape, time, resources it would take every single time. But if I did a full on, using the orange, I did a full on that day, and then I did a differential. Now the differential is going to increase because as files change every single day, the differential is going to get bigger until I finally turn around and do a full. And incremental, only the things that happen on Monday. These are only the changes that happen on Tuesday. These are only the changes that happen on Wednesday. Now you might think, well, that's the one that I want because it takes the least amount of tapes. Yeah, but if somebody said on Friday, hey, I'm missing this file, and you go, when did it go away? And you go, I don't know. Then I'm going to have to go, well, is it on Monday? No. Is it on this tape? No. Is it on this tape? No. Is it on this tape? Yes. So see how clumsy this could get? Now, I'll confess, a lot of backup software keeps a catalog of all this. So you just type in what it is you're after, and they'll tell you what tape it's on. But anyway, so it's about the amount of time. Now, to tell you the truth, if in a perfect world, I would do a backup every single day, a full backup every day, if I could if the tape system, backup system, whatever you're using, could handle it. I would do it every single day, and the reason is back to what we just talked about. Let's say a system crashes on a Saturday, and you used incremental. That means I have to install tape number 1 and wait for it to finish. And then install tape number 2 and wait for it to finish. And then tape number 3 and wait for it to finish. I'm a prisoner. I can't leave the server room. I have to wait until the tape is done and then get to the next tape. That's bad. That's slow. It's annoying. You're frustrated. People are pounding on the door. When's the server going to be back up? And you're trying to remember, wait, is this tape 4 or is this tape 3? So if you can afford it, do full backups. Because if a system dies, you do a full backup. You start the restore. You go tell the boss, hey, look, I've been here since 3 o'clock in the morning. The backup's running. It'll be done in an hour. I'm going to go grab something to eat. Right? I'm no longer a prisoner. I don't have to wait. Okay? Good. Adding a role, same old, same old. There's a thing called a Windows Server backup role. So the junior person could do the backup and restore. You don't need to be a full administrator. And then what to backup? So I do full, at home, I do what's called a bare metal, full restore image backup. I do not do file backups. I do a complete image of my machine. Image the entire hard drive. So if I lost a hard drive, I'm most likely upgraded. So I upgraded to a 6 terabyte SSD. I pop it in. I just take the file and go toot. I mean, it's quite simple to restore an entire disk image. Okay. So there's a thing called system state. If you're a domain controller, you might want to have a separate backup of just the Active Directory database. They call it system state. And so it's kind of important. So maybe you want to do that, like, I don't know, once a week, once a day, depending on your thing. And then you could do system reserved area. I mean, if you're doing an image backup, everything on the disk gets copied, whether or not it's currently being used, right? And then drive letters, you could do by drive letters. I don't. So Active Directory restore on page 323. So I talked about this thing called the system state. There's a thing called a Directory Services Restore Mode, a DSRM. Remember we talked about discussion when you were installing the Active Directory? It came up and said, give me this password. And I mentioned to you this password never changes. And you probably installed it like 6 years ago. And there's been 3 system administrators since. Did somebody write that down? Yikes. So the Directory Services Restore Mode password? Oh yeah, man, you have better written that down. And again, paper. If you store it on the domain controller and the domain controller's down, what good is that going to do you? Right? Okay. So this is basically what it comes up to. Is remember this guy, Directory Services Restore Mode password? Okay. So there's different restore modes. One's called a non-authoritative restore. That means I have more than one domain controller. And so something happened, like I accidentally deleted a group. And I went, oh man, an Active Directory group. So I don't want to start over from scratch. I just want to restore that one little piece. So I basically just go and do a non-authoritative restore, which means just the new thing that I wanted. Just this one group. I don't want to do the whole freaking thing. Just this one little group. So again, from Restore Media, and by the way, the Restore Media is sitting out there. It doesn't get updates, right? So it is possible that you could get a disaster. You restore the machine, and then it says, "Oh, by the way, I need updates." You go, "Oh yeah, you're right. We had an update. Patch Tuesday was this week." Okay. An authoritative restore means I'm going to start over from scratch. I'm going to wipe out the entire Active Directory and replace it with what I got. And hopefully it's what you need, right? So you only do that when things go horribly wrong. And then all updates, that happened after the backup are lost, right? I mean, anything you've done since then, well, it's like turning the clock back. If you did this last Thursday, well, that's it. Anything happened after Thursday, you don't get. There's no such thing as an incremental or differential when it comes to Active Directory restore modes. It's all or nothing. Everything is a full. Okay. And then redundant power supplies, page 325. Yeah, you need an uninterruptible power supply, UPS. We had for a while, we had each rack had an UPS at the bottom that ran the rack. That worked. And then we had an emergency generator. And then when we moved to a new building and built a better server room, we actually put an entire UPS for the entire server room. It could operate the lights. It could operate. We even had sort of like a window air conditioning kind of a scenario. It wasn't, but close. So that even if the entire system was down, we could run on batteries and we could cool the servers. That's pretty doggone cool. We didn't need to have them. By the way, why do you put the UPSs at the bottom of the rack, a 19-inch rack? Because they're lead acid batteries and they weigh a ton. You put it at the top of the thing, it'll swing like the Tower of Pisa. And you put them at the bottom, right? Okay, good. All right. And so obviously this is not going to last forever. So you need an emergency generator. So in my case, emergency generators usually take a couple of minutes to fire up and get synchronized, do their thing. So I don't need like battery backup that lasts 6 hours on a rack. I just need to have it long enough so the emergency generator can kick in. So it doesn't have to be big if you were going to do the rack mounted thing. In our case, we took the racks out. I mean, took the UPSs out of the rack and just used the gargantuan. It was a monster thing, size of a city bus with a battery pack. Okay, maybe not quite that big, half of a city bus. All right, but that's how it's done. All right, we have reached the end of this chapter. Whew. And I'll see you guys in the next chapter. By the way, this is the last chapter of this book, so we'll switch over to the other book exclusively from now on.